and welcome to this tutorial on the fantastic old hymn Abide With Me. This was written by Henry Francis Light. He wrote the words, and William Henry Monk wrote the tune, which is sometimes called Eventide. And this is a lovely, lovely hymn. Even if you are not a person of faith, it's a great tune to play on the Melodeon, and a change from the endless paring, because we're going to be playing bass notes and chords simultaneously. I always feel like it sounds like a harmonium when I play this, so I really hope you're going to enjoy this lesson, and let's get started. Now, the original key of this was E flat major, which is not a very Melodeon friendly key unless you own a B flat, E flat Melodeon, which I do, and I'm going to play it in E flat at some point during this tutorial, but I'm going to teach it to you in the key of G, because that's probably what you've got, a DG Melodeon. So basically all the notes on the G row, the row nearest to the bellows, this row here, they're going to have the normal heads, and the notes on the outside will have the diamond heads, and that's something peculiar to my music. So over here you have the treble clef, the clef that the Melodeon music is written in. 1 sharp, because we're in the key of G major, so all the Fs are sharp. 4/4, 4 beats to the bar, 4 quarter beats per bar, and a repeat code there, because we're going to repeat. And there are lots of verses. I think there's probably about 7 or 8 verses, but I don't think anyone actually does all of those. Some other things here. Andante means walking pace. So if you listen to this, okay, so that is the speed of it. Andante means walking pace. It's between a certain tempo range, and 90 is kind of in the middle of that, 90 crotchets per minute. You can see that to the right hand side of the word andante. Most musical terms are written in Italian, and that's what that word is. It's an Italian word. MF is mezzo forte, which means moderately loud. So you don't want to go crazy with the pushing and pulling of the bellows to get the volume, but you know, it wants to be fairly powerful without being ridiculously overpowering. Pos -1 is my code for position -1. I'll put a timestamp so you can avoid this bit, because I always say this in my lessons. I'm going to talk about pos -1 and what it means now. So if you know this, jump to the timestamp on your screen now. So this is a fourth button start instrument. That means that the fourth button down on the G row, on the push, gives me the note G, and on the D row, it gives me the note D. So if I were to put my first finger on that fourth button down, and my second finger on the button below that, and so forth, like that, buttons 4, 5, 6, 7. That's what I call position home, the home position, when my first finger is kind of home on the G. If I come up one from that, I call that -1, pos -1, and that's the position we're going to start in. Fingers 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now this is a fourth button start. You may well have a third button start, so you may well be on buttons 2, 3, 4, 5 to start with. Okay, so if your third button down on the push gives you G, that's where you'll be, but I'm here. That's what pos -1 means. Like I said earlier, we're not doing the par or par type of playing on this. We're going to do it like a solid left hand, that kind of thing. It's going to sound great. But let's do the right hand first of all on this first bar. No pickup bar, we're straight in. We're going to play these notes, and I don't think it's too hard. There's quite a few left hand chords, but it's, you know, it's really lovely to play this, so I don't think you're going to struggle with this too much. If you're an absolute beginner, yeah, it's going to take you a bit of practicing. If you're an established player, it shouldn't take you too long to sort this one out. So in position -1, your third finger on the push on the G row should give you this note, which is B, and we play 2 Bs. And then you can see we go over to the D row, diamond headed note, this note here, for this note here, which is A. The whole of this first bar is on the push, so you're going to need to pull the bellows out a bit before you start. So all on the push, so pushing the bellows in gradually as you play, and we've got a minim, a crotchet and a crotchet. So we count it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the minim takes up the first 2 beats of the bar, and then the 2 crotchets are on beats 3 and 4. Not too hard, I don't think. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see the abide with, you can see the words underneath. Now, talking about singing, this isn't a great key to sing it in. It's probably a bit high for a man or a lady. So you'll see later on in the lesson when I play it on the B flat, E flat. That's a really good key. E flat is a bit lower. So I won't attempt to sing it in this key, but you can see you've got the words to the first verse at least underneath the music. Let's talk about the left hand. Now we've got a G chord with a G bass and a D chord with a D bass. Right, let's do the G chord with the G bass first of all. So it's buttons 4 and 3 on the outside row, on the push. I've said this many times, I use fingers 4 and 3, although you don't have to. You could use 3 and 2 or even 2 and 1. And you play those two buttons together. So you've got that solid chord and bass note. It's like you're holding a left hand chord down on a harmonium or an organ or a piano, come to that. So that's on the push. And then the D bass and the D chord, notice they have asterisks. When you see that on my music, it means I want you to play them at the chin end. So it's the same row, outside row, it's buttons 2 and 1. So all on the push. Push, push. So you're going to need a fair amount of bellows to start with because, like I say, the whole of that first bar is on the push. And you play the B note as you play the G bass and G chord. And when you play the second B note, that's where the D bass and the D chord comes in. And then the little finger comes over to the A on the right hand side as that D bass and D chord is still sustaining. So that's your first bar. Now when we get to the next bar, which is bar 2, this one here, we do our first pull note. We've just played this note, which is the A on the D row on the push, and for me it's button 6, it might be 5 for you. What you do, you come up one from there, third finger, pull out, that gives you the note G. So you can see it's got a diamond head because it's on the D row, on the pull. And then you go back to the G row and it will feel like you're stretching a little bit, but you're still in that position -1. Remember, these two rows are slightly staggered. So you've got G on the pull and then you've got this note, which is D on the push. They're both minims. So 1, 2, 3, 4, so half and half. A minim is a 2 beat note, 2 quarters or a half if you like, half the bar if that helps you. So you hold this G for the first 2 beats of the bar and you hold that D for beats 3 and 4. And it's pull, push. Now what's our left hand here? What we have here is we have E minor with an E bass. Now generally chords have a lower case to show you that they are chords. See the G and the D. But when it comes to E minor or B minor, any minor chords, I always give the chord a capital letter because I always think a little E and an M looks a bit strange. So this is E minor with an E bass. How do we do that? Well, it's the inside row, buttons 2 and 1 on the pull, finger 2 on the E bass, finger 1 on the E minor chord. Now you'll notice that my E minor chord sounds a bit thin because I've got the third taken out of it. It's actually an E5 chord. That's the case for all of these top basses on my Melodeon. On this particular lily, I've taped them all over so I can get E minor and E major, A major and A minor. I can get both out of all those basses. Don't worry if you don't understand that. And you'll definitely have an E minor anyway on your Melodeon. So buttons 2 and 1 play together. Remember, all the while you're playing the bass note and the chord together. So pull out. Now we have one of these diagonal shapes here. It's a G chord with a B bass. Right, so G chord, we played this to start with. It's button number 3 on the outside row and it's finger 3. And the B bass is button number 2 on the inside row, finger 2. So you can see it's coming across in a diagonal and you push in. So G chord with a B bass. So E minor on the pull and then you've got a G major with a B bass. So it's pretty straightforward. You play the G note on the pull with the E minor and then you play the D note on the push with the G chord with the B bass. Right, sounds a bit complicated but it really isn't. I'm going to play that from the beginning so we get our bearings. Pull the bellows out, start. And you hear our tune taking shape. Right, let's move down to our next 2 bars, bars 3 and 4. Now, pretty busy bar, this bar, because you've got one note on every beat, E, D, D and C natural, C if you like, and you've got a chord and a bass note for each beat of the bar, so we're going to be pretty busy in this bar. Let's do that right hand first of all, shall we? So we have E, D, D, C. Right, so E is on the pull, finger 4. Okay, for me it's button number 6, it might be 5 for you. So pull and push on the same button gives me E and then D. Remember, tiny movements of the bellows. Play the D again and then come to the button above and pull out. You've got the note C. So you've got E, D, D, C. Pull, push, push, pull. Four's the even, that's the words underneath. Let's talk about the chords. Now, when you play the E on the right hand, you play a C bass and a C chord on the pull. So we're over here. On the inside row, it's buttons 4 and 3, fingers 4 and 3 for me. So pull, back over to the outside row, buttons 4 and 3, push gives you G bass, G chord. Then you'll see C chord with the C bass again, but with asterisks. Those asterisks mean, on my music, that I want you to play this C chord and C bass on the push. So it's the same buttons you played for the pull C and C bass, but like I say, on the push. Because the D note, you see, is on the push, so I want to have basses that work with that, so I've got a push. So from the beginning of that bar, I've got C bass, C chord on the pull, G bass, G chord on the push, then back to the same buttons I played just now, the push, and again I've got C bass, C chord, because you know on these two buttons you've got C bass and C chord on the pull and on the push. So that push C goes with the D note on the right hand, the second of those you play in the bar. So, like that. And then to finish off the bar, when you play that final C note on the pull on the right hand side, you play D bass and D chord, same buttons you play the G bass and G chord, but on the pull. So lots of changing from the inside row to the outside row to the inside row to the outside row, and lots of pulling and pushing. So that whole bar sounds like that. So a pretty complex bar, isn't it? So now bar number 4 is quite interesting because only the first note is the tune, this B, and this run of D, G, A and B, that's a bit of a filler, and I'll show you what I do here. So it's four's the eventide, and the tide really is held on, but rather than just playing the B and just waiting for a whole bar, I don't want you to get bored, and I think it's nice to put a bit of a filler in there, a little bit of a run, so we go, and it's all on the push. So the B is finger 3, remember we're still in this pos -1 position, on the G row, finger 3, and then we jump up 2 buttons. For me it's button 3, might be 2 for you. For the note D on the push, finger 2. And then we jump up 2 buttons for this note D. Okay, finger 1, button below on the push gives you G, then over to the D row for the note A, diamond head, finger 4. And then we return to that B that we started the bar on, and it's held for 2 beats. Now you could play it like that if you like the overlap sound there, and it will depend on your melodeon. It's not too bad on mine because these are all single reeds per note. If you've got 2 or 3 reeds per note, it might turn into a bit of a mush, so just see how you go with that. And the G bass and G chord is sustained all the way through that. That sounds like this. Right, let's play our first 4 bars to see what we've got. Sounding pretty nice, isn't it? Let's move down to bar number 5. We start off with our B note again. That's held for 2 beats. It's a minim, a round open note with a stem. Same button pulled out will give me C. Button below on the push will give me D. So pretty straightforward. 1, 2, 3, 4. The bass for that, the left hand, is G bass G chord on the push, C bass C chord on the pull, and then back to our diagonal shape that we did earlier, a G chord with a B bass. So in this particular bar, you've got the same amount of items in the right hand as you have the left hand. So it all goes together. The bass is nice, isn't it? You hear it kind of dropping down as you go up the tune. In bar number 6, you've got 2 minims, an E and a D, so it's same button, pull, then push, E, D, pretty straightforward. So it's C bass C chord with the first note, G bass G chord with the second note. Those two bars 5 and 6 sound like this. Now notice that my microphone here is on my treble side of my instrument. That tends to be the one that gets drowned out if any side does. The bass tends to overpower sometimes on a Melodeon, so if you want to mic something up, you want to mic your Melodeon up in a crude way like I am here, then this is what I do. You'll see some posh people, they'll have mics on both sides and things attached to their Melodeons with a mic curling in on both sides. And that's great. If you see someone like John Kirkpatrick play in a festival, he'll have a mic on both sides and the mixing engineer will mix it so you hear a good balance of the right and the left. But if you've got a choice of miking up, always mic up the right, the treble side. Now let's go on to bar 7. This is a really interesting bar. Let me just play it for you first. Now, quite nice that, isn't it? The right hand is C on the pull, A on the pull, B on the push, and then over to the D row for the note C sharp. Notice this sharp sign here by the C note means it's an accidental. We're not expecting a C sharp in the key of G major, but we do get one here because it's going to go with the A major chord. Let's sort the right hand out first of all. So we've got C on the pull, finger 3, then A on the pull, finger 2, button above, and then B on the push, finger 3, so back to finger 3 but on the push to get the B, like I say, and then we come across and down. So we go into a new position, we go into our home position. So we've got, see there, I'm now in my home position. I've moved down one position to get this C sharp note, diamond headed note on the D row. So you've got 4 crotchets in that bar. You see 1, 2, 3, 4. And the left hand is pretty nice here. We have a C with an A bass, D bass D chord, G bass G chord, and then A bass A chord. So C chord with an A bass is actually an A minor 7th chord. How do we do that? C chord, it's button 3, inside row, on the pull, and at the same time we do an A bass, button 2, outside row, and I put finger number 2 on that, like that. So that's my shape, diagonal. So it's C chord with an A bass, A minor 7th. Then we have D bass D chord. It's on the pull, so it's buttons 4 and 3, same buttons you use for G bass G chord, but pulling out. Fingers 4 and 3 for me. Then you push in using the same buttons to get G bass G chord. So you go from there to there, and then the final bass and chord is A bass and A chord. Buttons 2 and 1, outside row on the pull, and like I said, my A chord is an A5. It's missing that C sharp, but it doesn't matter. Put that together then. And the last bar of this page is another one of those occasions where we have the tune note at the beginning and then we have a little run up back to that tune note. I mean, here in bar 4 we had the B note here and here. This was the tune note, a little run up in between. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to play the tune note here and here, beginning at the end of the bar, and a run up. Notice it's all diamond heads, so it's all on the D row. We've just played this note, which is C sharp, like that. I'm just holding my fingers out of the way so you can see it. I don't normally play like that. So C sharp, little finger, same button pushed in will give me D, and I do this. All in a row, all in position, D, D, F sharp, A, D. So it's octave Ds, F sharp, A, D. All on the push. As I play D bass D chord on the push, see the asterisks there? And again, you've got the choice, play it separately. Or you could... I'm not sure about that. Maybe playing it separate sounds better. Right, good place to recap. Let's play our first page. Now, you probably noticed I pulled the bellows out as I went into bar 5. Normally you wouldn't want to do that, but with all these sustaining chords you are going to run out of air, so I don't think it's a crime to pull the bellows out before you start bar 5, and you might find that you just haven't got enough air to play the beginning of it. And to your ears, it might sound a bit out of balance. You might be getting much too much bass, and you may not be hearing the tune as clearly as you would like. But you'll probably find your listener will hear the tune fine, especially if they're standing on your treble side. So it's great, isn't it? That's our first page done. Let's move on to the next one. Now, bars 9 and 10 are the same as 1 and 2. So we just play those first of all. So we've done those already, so that's good, isn't it? Now we're going to go on to bar 11. Now bar 11, you just played D on the previous bar, on the push, on the G row. You're going to play it again at the beginning. And then button above on the pull will give you C, which you play twice. Keep pulling, come over to the D row for the note B. And there's no chord there. NC, no chord. It's going to be played on its own. So it's push, pull, pull, pull. And the left hand here, we've got C bass C chord on the push, C bass C chord on the pull, and then just a single E bass note. So it's going to be C bass C chord on the push, and straight away on the pull. So just hang on to the buttons. And then just the E bass, which is button number 2, inside row on the pull, and then nothing behind the final right hand note. Like that, okay? Now, lovely bit here. Again, we've got the tune note at the beginning of the bar and at the end of the bar. So we're going to play the note at the beginning. That's our tune note, which we could hold for the whole bar. I mean, if you're an absolute beginner, all these bars, we've got this run. Just play the first note in the bar. Don't worry about the running notes. If you're, a struggler, if you're a beginner, but if you can play them, they do sound nice. This is very tasteful, this, I like this. So we've got this. With that A minor 7th chord that goes behind it. It's very tasteful, isn't it? Now don't forget, we went back into position -1 when we started this second page. So we've got this A on the pull, finger 2. And then your first finger will tuck in nicely behind it on the D row, still pulling on this note E, which technically is in position home. So I put it in brackets, just this one note is in position home. So we've got A, then E, and the little finger falls nicely on this note, which is B, on the D row. Back over to the G row for the C note, and back to the A where we started. It's a little bit like an A minor sus2. Got that lovely B, and it's an A minor 7th chord behind it. C chord A bass, we've done this before. So, really lovely, isn't it? Let's play the first 4 bars of this page. notice my left hand disappeared out of shot there because quite a lot on the pull there. And you can be quite expansive with the bellows on a piece like this, and needs lots of expression, lots of passion, doesn't it? So bar 13. Now, this is an interesting bar. We've just ended bar 12 on this note here, which is A on the G row. We're going to play the same pitched note on the D row on the push, finger 4, okay? This note here, diamond head, minim, okay? And then over to the G row, still pushing to get the B, finger 3, and pull out to get the C, and you can, of course, just play that note without repressing the button. The left hand here, this is very interesting. Have a look at this. Look at that, a real diagonal shape, isn't it, from one corner to the other. So we've got this C bass in this bottom corner here, button 4 inside row, little finger, and we've got this D chord on button number 1 on the outside row, so it's kind of opposite corners, push in, that gives us a D chord with a C bass, almost like a D7. That's to be played without A. And then when we play our B note on the right hand side, we do our G chord with the B bass. Remember, that was the first diagonal shape we played. Then we play D bass, D chord at the knee end, buttons 4 and 3 on the pull. So it's push, push, pull. Very interesting bar, that. Like that. And then in bar 14, we've got 4 crotchets, 1 per beat. So push, pull, B, A, G, C. So finger 3, finger 2, finger 2, finger 3. And as you play those 4 crotchets, you do this, G with a B bass again. Now we do D with an A bass. It's the middle 2 buttons on the outside row. So buttons 3 and 2. Button 3 will give you D chord, button 2 will give you the A bass. Quite an interesting chord there. And then back to the G chord with the B bass. So it's, so you can leave your third finger on that button 3 on the outside row. And then you finish the bar with C bass, C chord on the pull. So that sounds like this. Really nice. Let's play those 2 bars, 13 and 14. Lovely harmonies there, aren't there? Right, last stave. We'll talk about this bar 17 in a minute down here. Notice 15's got 2 asterisks, as has 17. I'll come back to that. And again, I've got a couple of my little runs here. If you're a beginner, just play this B and this A and this G. Don't worry about the stuff in between. They're little runs I've made to make it sound more interesting. So this is what we do. Now, let's talk about layouts here. I've got an Anahata layout here, which means I've got this. I've got that low C. If you don't have that, play bar 17 instead of bar 15. So I'll deal with this bar 17 first because it's probably more likely you've got this normal layout rather than the Anahata. So when you get to 15, don't play it if you haven't got the Anahata layout. Play bar 17 instead. So this is what I do. I play that. So it's a half push, half pull bar. So it's B, D, G, B. Like that, all on the push. And then A, G, A, F sharp. And the G is on the D row. See, finger 3. So. But again, if you can't do that, just play the B and the A. See, first half of the bar and the second half of the bar. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's this B here and this A here, and then go back to bar 16 and play just that G there. But if you can do this, it sounds nice, doesn't it? And the left hand behind that is G bass, G chord. And then same buttons pulled out gives you D bass, D chord. Okay, now if you have got the Anahata layout, do this. Now it involves a change of right hand position halfway through. So the first half is the same as the bar I've just shown you, bar 17. I'm talking about bar 15 now, this one here. So you've got B, D, G, B, all on the push. Then you move up one position to go into position -2 and do the same thing but on the pull. That'll give you A, C, natural, F sharp, A. Basses are the same, G bass, G chord on the push, D bass, D chord on the pull. So that's... Now, whether you hold these basses on all the way through or lift them after a few notes very much depends on your melodeon. You might find it's too mushy and overpowering to hold onto the chords for a long time. You'll have to experiment with your own particular melodeon. And then on the end, this is what I do. I come back into position -1. I won't have gone out of that position, of course, if I play bar 17 instead of 15. And this last bar is like this. It's a bit like something we did earlier. So we play G, D, G, all on the push this bar. So finger 2, finger 1, finger 2. Over to the D row for the note A. And then back to the G row for the final min in B. As you play G bass, G chord on the push. And that's your ending. Right, let's play that second page and I'll do it with both those alternatives. So I'm going to play bar 17 instead of bar 15 this time. And this time I'll play it with bar 15, the Anna Hatter layout version. Well, there we are. I really love this. I think it sounds great. I love these old hymns. They work so well on the melodeon, don't they? And in a moment I'm going to play it for you on the B flat, E flat. But now I'm going to play it all the way through on this particular melodeon in the key of G major. When I was playing that, in my head I was saying to myself, put the brakes on all the while. You can get nervous and rush and spoil it, and it's very hard to keep it all at one nice even tempo. That's a good tip for you. If you have that voice in your head saying put the brakes on, for me I find it really helps. Right, I'm going to go and get my B flat, E flat, Hohner Lilliput, and I'm going to play it in the key of E flat for you now. So it's lovely on this Lilliput, isn't it? My friend Martin White, who is my Melodeon fettler, he said to me once that hymns just fall out of these instruments, and I'm inclined to agree with him. It sounds really nice, and obviously that is the proper key, E flat major. And that felt quite weird because these Melodians have much smaller buttons. It's a much smaller instrument altogether, but it really sounds great on it, doesn't it? So if you haven't got a B flat, E flat, I strongly recommend you get one because they're great little instruments. These Lilliputs, this has been fettled beautifully by Martin. It sounds really lovely. They are fantastic instruments to have. Sadly, the Morris is played generally in G or D, so these aren't any good for Morris. But you know, I wish we could change to E flat or B flat for Morris. I'd love to play this rather than my other instruments for Morris. Anyway, that's a different subject. So, Abide With Me, fantastic hymn, glorious hymn. The words are amazing as well. I hope very much that you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you very much for watching, and you'll see me in my next video.